There's never been a better time to have SiriusXM. With even more exclusive content, with over 150 channels in your vehicle, including the widest, deepest variety of music, ad-free. Root for your team. Get news. Listen to whatever makes you laugh. And hear all about your favorite stars. Your Platinum Plan offer includes more than ever before to enjoy online, on your phone, or at home. Create your own ad-free personalized stations powered by Pandora. Hear ad-free extra channels filled with music and enjoy favorite shows with SiriusXM Video. Thousands of hours of shows and performances on demand. What you love is on now.
So we're kicking off our next theme, and that next theme is all about Jeeps. That's right, Jeep audio is on the rise. It's infectious, it's growing, and you got to be a part of it if you're a dealer. When it comes to Jeep audio, JL Audio has got some pretty unique and slick solutions to satisfy even the pickiest of Jeep audio customers. This is CMA Connected, presented by SiriusXM, all about Jeep and JL Audio, and it starts right now. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another CMA Connected. I'm your host, Ben Wu. And as we kick off our Jeep audio sessions, we're kicking off with a brand name that everybody recognizes, but also a brand name that really takes things seriously if they decide to commit to a certain type of product or certain type of category. And it's certainly no different when it comes to the Jeep audio category. JL Audio, you will see today, has a ton of different solutions for both the JL and JK platforms. And I think we're going to learn a lot today, especially if you're new to the Jeep market. You definitely want to pay attention because you may not know about some of these solutions that JL Audio has engineered so well. Before we get that kicked off, we're going to go ahead and invite to the studio our good friends at Gemsen Distribution, their Canadian distributor, and our friend Dave Singh, who's their national product manager, or sales manager, sales manager, right, Dave?
I sweep the floors, do whatever it takes,
Fair enough. Dave Singh from Gemsen, welcome to the show today. We're kicking off the Jeep audio sessions, Dave. So my first question out of the gate is, are you surprised that this is a category that's taken up so much space in the industry?
No, not at all. I think if anybody pays attention to what's happening, especially at car shows, you're going to see a huge influx of Jeep enthusiasts. In fact, we've got some great stats that I think Rob is going to get into, but the Jeep owners are people that are accessorizing or spending the most amount of money accessorizing their vehicles. I think there's a stat out there that says about 34% of owners are looking to do audio upgrades to their system. So this is just a no-brainer in terms of a new clientele or new customers to target towards.
Absolutely. And, it's an interesting platform, both the JL and JK, because there are some restrictions or there are some challenges to get over to maximize the space that's allotted from these manufacturers and the way it's been designed. And I think JL Audio has done a fantastic job coming to the table with a couple key solutions. And one word I'm going to use right now that's going to come up a lot today, Stealthbox.
Absolutely. If you own a Jeep, you definitely want to make use of the maximum amount of cargo space that you have, and Stealthbox is the ultimate solution to give you outstanding base performance without having to give up your useful cargo space. So that'll be really cool to talk about.
Absolutely. So we're going to take a look at who the customer is. We're obviously going to cover Stealthbox, and last but not least, I think we're also going to kind of bring to light a couple of the unique application specific type accessories that JL has kind of engineered as well. No, we lost your microphone. Dave, you want to check your mic? We just lost your audio. Love to hear what you have to say about that there. Oh, I'll tell you what, Dave, we're going to go to our video to set up the show. And in the meantime, we'll get your mic back on. To set the stage, we've got JL make some really cool videos. Pay attention to this. It'll really set the stage of what we're going to learn today when it comes to JL Audio in the Jeep audio category. Let's roll the tape. Dave, did we got you back? No audio. I'll tell you what, let's bring in our specialist while you're working that out, because I'm pretty excited about that. I like the way JL plays, that's for sure, especially seeing that video. But I want to get into it. Let's go ahead and bring on the product trainer. Love having him back here. So knowledgeable. Mr. Rob Haynes from JL Audio.
Hey, Ben, how's it going?
Good morning, good afternoon, and how are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing well. After watching that video, I'm kind of jealous. I feel like I need to talk to our marketing department to find out what I need to do to be the driver of these vehicles when we make these cool videos.
I would be happy to send an email referring how, Mr. Product Trainer Rob Haynes requires a demo vehicle with him as a training tool.
There we go.
That really kind of connects the dots for customers, I think.
Absolutely. It's all about those real life experiences, right?
You know what? I know there's 2 videos. I'm pretty excited to show the second one. The second one will come later because that's showing this new demo vehicle, the Gladiator that you guys built. But before we get there, we have a long voyage down this adventure that we're talking about today, which is JL Audio within the Jeep category. What can you tell us about, the approach that JL had to this category?
Well, I mean, we definitely did our research. Jeeps, as Dave mentioned, we're seeing them everywhere now. And it's not just that it's a popular vehicle. Really, it's a lifestyle. Whether you're taking them off-roading or it's just a really cool-looking pavement pounder, car shows, groups on the internet. It's really become that new kind of clique type vehicle where you're part of the club, and which is great because as we'll discuss in just a bit, they're without a doubt the most, if not one of the most customized vehicles out there right now. Sales are through the roof. People are spending money to make them look cool and have a good time with them. And then when you get that kind of buddy system of vehicles, it's just a lot of potential for our industry to really grow and show what we can do, especially in a vehicle like you mentioned, where there's not a lot of space. Real estate's a premium. And, at JL Audio, we focus on application-specific solutions a lot of the time, especially when we talk about our Stealthbox line of products. So it really was a no-brainer for us to do a full line of Stealthbox products for the Jeep vehicles, and not just subwoofers like the enclosures that we'll talk about, but solutions to mount amplifiers, as well as some safe under hood mounting solutions for power wire and fuse holder management. So it's definitely a category. It's on the grow. We've taken it very serious at JL Audio. We've purchased 2 of the Wrangler JLs. Of course, when the new body style came out as the Wrangler JL, JL has to buy a JL and outfit the JL
Obviously.
full of JL equipment. So it only made sense. So we do have 2 of the Wrangler JLs, one on the East Coast and West Coast that we do send to various Jeep shows and events. And of course, then we bought a Gladiator as well, the cool, the truck Jeep that we have a pretty cool video coming up that'll show the wild demo system in that. But of course, if we want to, we're big in supporting the off-road events, the Jeep shows. So, for our retail partners, if you're interested, if you want our support, reach out to our marketing team or, through Dave, and we'll see what we can do to assist. But this is a category that we are all in. We've done some very nice partnerships with Mark at Car Audio Fabrication on YouTube. And Mark's done some really cool videos on his YouTube channel that can also be found on the JL Audio YouTube channel, showing the different Jeep products we have, the really cool JL Audio system that he built with custom pods for C7 speakers on top of some of the Jeep specific products. So it's definitely a category we're taking very seriously and making sure we market appropriately, not just to the car stereo shops, but to those Jeep owners, the enthusiasts. And, it's an interesting category. Obviously, me as a former retailer, I always want to make sure I'm respectful to our dealers and our business partners. But this is a category that's very popular with the DIYers as well. And we wanted to make sure we came out with products that not only made our professional, retail partners look professional with their installation, but it was something that the DIYer would be able to handle themselves, for the guys that like to wrench on their Jeeps on the weekends and
a big portion of those people are that type of DIY clientele. There's no question about it. 2 questions. I'm hoping that we can kind of run through also maybe different system layouts that can give ideas to dealers of how they could suggest full systems to their customers.
We can definitely do that.
Awesome. And the other thing is, at the end of the day, to understand this customer a little bit better, because I know JL, let's be honest, I think you're a little bit humble in how you said it, but when JL dedicates themselves to a category, let's take marine for an example, it's like all in. And I feel like there's certainly a specific amount of energy put towards this category from JL. I think there's some materials and stuff we'll talk about later in the catalog. Dave, did you have anything else to add before we let Mr. Haynes here go to do his presentation?
Well, hopefully my audio's back, but no, I think Rob
we hear you. Yeah.
Especially, the fact that a lot of these guys like doing wrenching their own Jeeps, and some of the products we're going to show are perfect for those customers.
Fantastic. So without further ado, Mr. Haynes, you have the floor, and we will stand by and come back to you with some questions once you're done.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Let's take it away.
All right. So kind of what I want to talk about today, as we mentioned, we're going to do a little bit into some research, some numbers that we've come up with from some SEMA reports. That's really some good insight as to why, as a 12-volt retailer, you really want to be in this category. And then, of course, we'll get into the JL specific products that we have for the different Wrangler models. And we're not just solely focusing on the new JL or the Gladiator body style. We want to make sure that the JK Jeep owners are taken care of as well, because there are a lot of those on the road, as we're going to discuss. And of course, some solutions to think outside of the box, maybe some outdoor or outside audio solutions that you can do with the Wranglers as well. They are pretty popular for outdoor usage, so we want to make sure we can enjoy music outside of the vehicle as well. So when we're talking about some of the statistics we're going to be talking about, we did get some reports that were generated from SEMA, where they pulled a decent amount of Jeep Wrangler Gladiator customers. And, for me, it was a real eye opener. I knew that this was a popular category. I knew there was a lot of ones out there, but I didn't realize how many vehicles were on the road and the actual accessoration rate. So right now in the US, probably a little more than what you guys have up there in Canada, but in the US, the SEMA data shows there's just under 3 million Wranglers on the road that are or at least registered to be on the road. I'm sure there's a bunch of other ones that are, off the books for off-road use or whatever, but that's a lot of vehicles. And then on top of that, SEMA's projecting close to 1.6 million units sold within the next 7 years. 2021 to 2028, they're projecting 1.6 million units sold. And that's the fourth highest amount of SUVs that they're projecting. You're looking at a Ford Explorer and the Lincoln version of that, the Jeep Grand Cherokee, the Honda CR-V, and then the fourth most popular vehicle they're projecting is the Wrangler family of vehicles. So that's a lot of vehicles out there. And you're looking at a vehicle that on average has an accessoration rate of 39%. That means almost 40% of the Wranglers out there have some sort of modification done to them. And I said we didn't want to forget about those TJ and JK customers, because almost 62% of those used Jeeps out there have some sort of accessoration or modification done to them. And of course, when we talk about that, it's not necessarily all audio. There's roll cages, winches, new bumpers. So those kind of factor in as well, but there's still a good portion that are modifying their audio systems. We're talking about 34%. And if we think about just the new Jeeps, the projected 1.6 million or whatever it was, 1.4 or 1.6 million out there, 34% of that, we're looking at 476,000 Jeeps that are going to get some sort of audio upgrade in them. So there's a huge growth potential for this. And of course, if you market it the right way, that just is going to open the door even more. This is a category, without a doubt, you want to let your customers know, the people in your area know that you handle Jeeps. It's not like the old days where a car would just come in and say, yeah, we can do that. Let's go take a look at it. Now when a customer calls, do you work on Jeeps? Do you have anything for a Jeep? Know what your go-to system is going to be. Be confident. Yeah, here's what we do on Jeep Wranglers. We do JL audio stealth boxes here. We put the amps under the seat with custom, amp racks. We do this, we do that, and here's the price. When you give them that set system with confidence, it really makes it easy to sell. It makes you sound like the expert. And then, of course, that's where, in my opinion, the whole snowball, referral, return business comes into play. And for me, that's how our industry needs to continue to grow and survive. And when you look at some of the other numbers, when you look at Jeep owners, on top of 34% of Jeeps out there having their audio system upgraded, 20% of Jeep owners own a boat. 10% of them have some sort of personal watercraft that we can do audio systems. Almost a quarter of them have a UTV or ATV or dune buggy. The numbers are probably higher in Canada, but in the US, 4% own a snowmobile. We don't need those here in Southern California where I have dirt and desert around me, but I know up north, when we get to the northern states, those are very popular, and I know they're popular up in Canada as well. But 63% of Jeep owners have some sort of fun other equipment that they do stuff with, stuff that as retailers we can improve as well, whether it's a trailer, whether it's an RV, a boat, jet ski. Even 35% of them have another vehicle, which is their primary driver. So those are more opportunities that we can sell better audio experiences to, whether it's another Jeep, which a lot of them do drive, or just a different type of vehicle in general. There's a lot of growth opportunities with these customers. And we need to make sure as retail specialists that we're letting them know, we know your vehicle. We're good with your vehicle. We know all about it. We use the best products. And when you sell that pitch and give them that good experience, you have so many other opportunities to take care of those customers. So I love seeing data like this, and I'm glad SEMA does it, because I know for me it was an eye-opener. And as a retailer, it definitely should be an eye-opener in terms of not just what the Jeep market can bring you, but the other potential as well. So knowing we have a pretty serious market of owners that is willing to invest, and up to 25% of Jeep owners will invest over $5,000 into their vehicle, whether it's just the audio system or overall amount of accessories. That's a pretty significant amount of money, and we can get some pretty good audio systems in there as well. And that's really what we wanted when we developed audio systems at JL Audio for the Wrangler products. We're seeing this massive growth in the sales. When I was growing up, I always saw Wranglers as off-road vehicles. They weren't really a common vehicle to drive around town, but now it's about a 50-50 mix about if it's being used off-road primarily or primarily as an everyday driver. And when you start thinking about these vehicles as everyday drivers, there's the daily things we need to worry about: getting kids in the car, groceries, other materials, we're picking up around town. So real estate truly is a premium in these cars. And that's why the Stealthbox was really the perfect solution to put base in these applications. If you're not familiar with our Stealthbox line of products, they are fiberglass enclosures that are all vehicle specific. Such as you can see here in the new JL Wrangler models, the Stealthbox there fits snugly in that left corner between the seat and the wheel well. Looks like it's part of the vehicle, and that's really what Stealthbox is all about, to be stealthy and really to provide not just a premium aesthetic, but of course that premium sound performance as well. And a lot of work goes into our Stealthbox products. I get asked often, why is a Stealthbox priced the way why is it priced the way it is? It's definitely a premium piece. It's going to be one of the more expensive subwoofer enclosure systems out there, but there's a reason for it. These are not just inexpensive plastic enclosures, injection molded or, a bunch of inexpensive wood slapped together. There's a lot of work that goes into designing a Stealthbox, starting with our R&D team in South Florida. Our R&D department, all of the JL and JK specific products that we're going to be talking about today for the Wranglers are all designed by our R&D team. So when we bought the JL Wrangler, or we would bring in an older JK model or the Gladiator, they tore that thing apart and they developed all of the vehicle specific products for it. So when we would do a Stealthbox, it's all done now through 3D modeling software. Gone are the days of test enclosures and wasting a bunch of time fiberglassing a wall and trying to see what works. Now what we do is take a 3D scan of the vehicle. And in this case here, we have a UTV on the screen, and you can see Bill, who's our head of our R&D department. With that magic wand in his hand, he's able to scan a vehicle and then get a 3D model of that on his computer. So here we can see that kind of assembly in between the shock towers there that Bill's scanning. If this was a Jeep, he'd have a 3D model of what that sidewall looks like. And then we can 3D model an enclosure that perfectly fits into that. So there's a lot of initial work done on the R&D side, not just with the modeling, but then also the initial listening to make sure that acoustically we're getting the sonic performance from that location we want to. Is it causing rattles? Are there mounting solutions in that direct vicinity that we need to know about? Or do we have to design a custom mounting system? All of that stuff is extensively tested before we can go into production. When we do go into production for a Stealthbox, again, all of this is done in our South Florida facility in our giant fiberglass department. So once R&D has determined the shape and size of the enclosure, molds are made, and those molds are then lined with matte fiberglass, as you can see in the image here. After the mold is lined with fiberglass, so Stealthboxes they're made typically in two pieces. You either have a top and a bottom or a back and a front. So once the fiberglass is in the mold for half the enclosure, the top of the mold goes on. They'll hold it in place with the clamps that you can see on the screen. But all of these hoses you see coming down from the top there are all tied to a heavy vacuum system. So we'll attach those hoses to the mold and it vacuum seals that mold shut. We then have a machine where they'll scan the mold, and the machine knows what enclosure and if it's the front or the back that's tied to. And that machine then injects the correct amount of material into the mold to absorb into the fiberglass and harden it. So your hardening material, your catalyst, your resin, all of that stuff is injected in, and it's a strategic amount to make sure we don't waste our materials. But what happens with this vacuum system, you can kind of see that reservoir, that big center area, the metal area right under his arm. And what happens is, again, is we connect that vacuum system to that, and that vacuum, that suction forces the chemicals that we've injected into the mold, and it pulls them into the center. It's a process called resin transfer molding, and it's actually how boat hulls are made. We've just shrunk it down to make enclosures. And to me, Stealthboxes, some of them are rather large, but when we give some tours to our OEM boat builders, they're shocked that we have such a extravagant system, as one called it, for such little fiberglass pieces. And I guess, an F-150 Stealthbox at 4 or 5 feet wide isn't little, but I guess when you compare it to the hull of a boat, I could see where they're coming from that. But that vacuum system, by pulling all the materials into the middle, it soaks and absorbs into the fiberglass. And then any excess material is stored in that little reservoir. And we do a very hot mixture. So within a couple of hours, we can take that mold apart and have a half of a Stealthbox. And what's great about it is, because we're using a mold and it's clean matte, when you're not doing the typical cut it up, chop it, mat it down method, it comes out as smooth as my table here. It actually looks really cool when it comes out. And then we can start joining them. And a lot of work goes into the bonding process of a Stealthbox. Obviously, you have two large pieces of fiberglass that need to be joined together. It's a very critical part of the enclosure, not just to maintain pressure. We don't want any air leaks, but it has to look good as well. These are premium products. They have to have that premium aesthetic and look to them. So a lot of work goes into making sure where they're joined, that bond is not just solid, but it's clean, it's smooth. It's nothing you can see through the carpet of the Stealthbox. Or if it's a painted Stealthbox, like some of our off-road for UTV, ATV models are, where they have that texture paint on them. You don't want to see that line or any excess material where the two halves bond together. So a lot of work is done to make sure that is smooth without compromising the bonding of the two enclosure pieces. Once that's done, it still goes through a little more work where we'll grind and further clean up the enclosure so it's as smooth as possible, pre-drill all the mounting holes so it's ready to go. So all of this happens in the far west end of our building. And if anyone that's had a tour of JL Audio, they've been in our fiberglass department. These pictures really don't do justice to the scale of what our team can do. We have the potential to do about 200 plus Stealthboxes a week in our fiberglass department. And, I remember the days of doing fiberglass in the stereo shop where you're talking about usually 2 to 3 days to do a fiberglass enclosure. And that's what's beautiful about Stealthbox, is it comes to you ready to drop in. You're freeing up that install time in the bay. so you can get another vehicle in or work on something else. The vehicle doesn't smell like the chemicals. So really a great drop-in premium solution that not only benefits the consumers, but the shops benefit from it as well by limiting the amount of time they're doing with custom fabrication, which really can bog things down, especially in shops that don't have a large installation crew. And once all that's done, it goes and gets stored on our shelves in our factory. And what's unique about Stealthboxes is we do assemble them to order. So our fiberglass department is essentially keeping up with inventory levels of raw fiberglass enclosure. So when an order comes in for a Stealthbox, the enclosure gets pulled, and that's when we do the wrapping and assembling. So we have a very talented team. It blows me away. Most Stealthboxes with one sheet of carpet, and some of these are very intricate designs, they're able to stretch, work, manipulate that carpet so it looks seamless on the enclosure. There's no glue lines. You don't see any of the fiberglass, underneath where it's joined through it. It just gives you that very high-end looking enclosure that looks like it's supposed to be in the vehicle. Color matching carpet when available, depending on the models, or a nice texture paint if it's a off-road UTV exposed to the elements type enclosure. And then once that's wrapped, it then goes to the next department over where they load it with the subwoofer, and then they do a quality control test on it. They make sure that obviously there's no air leaks, there's no unwanted noises playing from the enclosure, the driver's hooked up the right way so the polarity is proper. Then we package it up, it goes out the door, and is then on its way to our customers. So a very unique process when it comes to mass scale fiberglass production, but it's without a doubt the right way to do it without compromising the performance and keeping that premium look. And, I keep saying premium. This is what Stealthbox is all about. It's that no compromise, best sonic performance without taking up, really any space. When the Stealthbox first came out, I think our first one was for a early 90s Mustang, and it was a spare tire well subwoofer enclosure, which was kind of unheard of back then. Everything, back in the days, you just had a wood box or a wood enclosure, and whatever space you lost, that was the compromise of having bass. And what we found with Stealthbox being a premium solution, as customers get older, they still want bass, they want to enjoy their music, but they don't want to lose space anymore. They have kids, strollers, groceries, real life issues where sometimes you just can't blend both of those, fun bass and real life. And that's really where Stealthbox started and where we've seen the growth. And we've got a nice lineup of enclosures for all of the different Jeep Wrangler options out there. And we'll start with the new JL, the 2018 Up Wranglers. We have a very nice Stealthbox system that uses TW1 subwoofers. And we do have two models for the 2018 Up Wranglers. Both of these, there's a driver and passenger side they install right behind the seats and in front of the wheel wells. We do have a couple of options as well. So if you're going to order one of these, it's important to make sure that you order the correct one. These Stealthboxes are available on both passenger and driver models and 4 ohm or 2 ohm options. So if we were doing just one Stealthbox, I would highly recommend you get the 2 ohm model. That way we can get maximum output potential from the amplifier. If we're going to do 2 Stealthboxes, one on each side, I would recommend ordering the 4 ohm models. That way 2 of them at 2 ohms will again make sure we get full output potential of the amplifier. So we do give some flexibility with those in the TW1s to make sure whether it's 1 or 2, we're getting that max output potential. Anywhere from 300 to 600 watts of power handling, again, if we're doing 1 or 2, and made in the US. And what I do love about these Wrangler ones is that really cool kind of front baffle that really makes it blend in and look like it's part of the vehicle. And if you notice some of the details on underneath the subwoofer, underneath the subwoofer on the panel, that mimics the front grille of the Jeep with the amount of openings on the grille, that kind of dark texture, the way it all blends in with the side panels. It looks like it came from the factory. And that's actually a pretty cool piece. Just a quick little side story. Believe it or not, that front baffle is expanding foam. Some of you may remember the old power wedge enclosures we used to sell with the WX subwoofers and the JX amplifier. And it had a really nice black cover on the back of it. And a lot of people thought that was wood, but it's expanding foam. It's actually the same material you find in the Stealthbox for packaging. That's one of the things we love to show on tours of the facility. When we put the Stealthbox in the big brown box it ships in, we fill it with expanding foam, and that expands and grows around the enclosure, creating essentially a cloud or pillow that the enclosure can ship in. But what we found is when you take expanding foam and you force it into a very small area under an immense amount of pressure, it gets very dense and very light. So these panels, it's essentially a very small mold, like a Stealthbox. We inject the expanding foam into it and then use these hoses that blow up under pressure. And when they blow up, it sandwiches the mold shut, forcing that expanding foam to get very dense, very light and rigid. So it's kind of a cool thing to watch when you see those made in person, but that's just an expanding foam that we then texture paint and make look extra nice and part of the vehicle. So it doesn't add a lot of weight, but it's, really just a really cool way to do things. Again, that's just JL Audio in general, coming up with ways outside of the box and materials to make a product reliable, but light, efficient, and all of those good things that we want with the Stealthbox. So that's your option for the JL Wranglers. And you can see how nicely that fits in. We also have an option for the Gladiator, and there's even less room in the Gladiators to work with because it's a truck. So what we've come up with is an under-seat solution using two 10TW1 subwoofers, 4-ohm option. So we have that final 2-ohm impedance. And again, 600 watts of power handling, made in our Florida facility. And in the picture you can see here, and you can kind of see through the seats a little bit there with Photoshop, how that fits nicely under the seat. There's no real loss of space in the vehicle, especially for the people sitting in the back seat. And again, you've got that awesome experience from two TW1s down firing, loading nicely off the floor and filling in the rest of the cabin. Additionally, for the older models, Wrangler JK, so the 2007 to 2017 Wranglers, again, we have some options using TW1 subwoofers. Again, you have 2-ohm or 4-ohm options, depending if you're doing one or both sides of the vehicle. These don't have that beauty panel due to the aesthetics and shape of the rear quarter panel and wheel well inside. But again, these enclosures tuck up nicely on top of the wheel well, right behind the seat. Again, very minimal loss of space. You have two 10-inch subwoofers, so 300 to 600 watts of power handling. And again, a great way to get bass in the car. And in this case here, you're not losing any space. That's, maximum storage potential there by getting them up there. And that's one of the benefits of the TW1 series of products. You'll notice a lot of these Stealthboxes use TW1. That 10 TW1 only needs 0.35 cubic feet of airspace. When we go back and look at this little enclosure here, that is relatively small. We couldn't make a Stealthbox like this if we had a larger airspace requirements. So that's really where the TW1 shine, is very small airspace, 0.35 for a 10, 0.65 cubic feet for a 12. And that allows us to make these itty bitty Stealthboxes for the Wranglers without compromising that low frequency response or excursion potential of the driver. For some of the other older JK models that we want to make sure we take care of, because remember, there's a lot of them out there that are customized. This is for the 2 doors. There's really no room to do a wheel well type Stealthbox system. So this model actually goes down in the cargo compartment behind the back seat and the tailgate. This uses a 10W1 V3 subwoofer, so a little more output, I would say, being we do have a full-size driver in here now. 300 watts of power handling, again, goes right. I mean, that is stealth. It does raise the floor about 4 to 5 inches, but very minimal overall loss of space when it comes to storing groceries or, smaller items back there. Looks low key, out of sight. This one, we do have a couple of different color options as well, depending on the interior color of the vehicle. But if you got a 2-door Wrangler, we got you covered with that cargo compartment Stealthbox as well. And if you didn't know any better, if you're just looking at this picture, you wouldn't even know there's a subwoofer system installed inside the vehicle. And lastly, for our 2007 to 2012 Wranglers, before they made some changes to the back quarters of the vehicles, we have this really cool one with a 13 TW5 V2 in it. And of course, I'm a huge fan of the 13 TW5 subwoofers. extremely thin, massive amounts of output and excursion. So with this one Stealthbox system, we're talking about 600 watts of power handling. Again, it fits snugly up on that passenger side quarter panel in the vehicle, minimal loss of space on the floor itself. Again, you got some aesthetics to play with the Jeep theme, with the grille kind of being integrated into the enclosure itself there with the little slots going down. And again, a very low-key option, massive amounts of bass potential thanks to that 13 TW5 V2. But again, a very small enclosure thanks to that concentric tube design and maximizing the width or length we have on the side of the vehicle there to make that enclosure. So we have a pretty well-rounded lineup when it comes to Stealthbox bass solutions in the vehicles without taking up space. And of course, if you don't care about space, I've seen a lot using our W0 loaded enclosures or some of our other ones where you can downfire them to help kind of improve some of the loading in what's not necessarily the nicest vehicle for bass, being it's wide open and not as confined as a typical vehicle is going to be. One other thing our R&D team was able to do is also develop a line of amp racks for the JK Gladiator and JL model vehicles. So when our team was developing the Stealthbox, we started looking at some more solutions as well, knowing the growth potential, knowing the DIY market, also knowing there's not a lot of room for electronics to be installed in a vehicle. And we want to make sure we provide solutions that allow installers, whether it's professional or the DIYers, to safely install their products, keep it out of the way of potential mud, water, moisture, not have to drill holes. And that's really where these Stealthbox amp racks come into play. They're compatible with most JL audio amplifiers. They'll work with just about any amplifier in the VXI, XD, V2, RD, and MX categories. On the VXI and XD V2 family, only the largest of the chassis, so the 1,000 watt mono blocks, the 1,000 watt 5 channels, the 800 watt 8 channels, those chassis will not fit on these. But the 600 watt or the 6 channel, your 4 channel, 3 channel, 2 channel mono block, the smaller 5 channels, all of those in the XD-V2 and VXI categories will fit on these amp racks. You can do the RD 400/4 or RD 500/1 amplifiers, and you can fit up to 2 of the smaller MX amplifiers. So the MX 300/1, the MX 280/4, even the previous generation MHX and HX amplifiers, you can fit 2 of those smaller chassis on these amp racks. And they're all pre-drilled for our amplifiers. You can kind of see on the image on the screen when that comes back up there that they're all pre-drilled. We do provide a sheet that tells you what holes to use for whatever amplifier you're mounting. But what I really love is that there's no holes drilled in the vehicle. All of our amp racks use factory mounting locations and mounting hardware. So in the Gladiator and JL Wranglers, as you can see here, we actually mount using the seat hole mount. So the seat comes up, and then the same bolts that'll go back in to mount the seat to the floor is what holds the amp rack in place. So you're not drilling any holes into the floor of the vehicle. It raises the amplifier off the floor. So again, if you're outside mudding, tops off and it starts raining, your amps aren't sitting on the floor where they can get wet. Even the downward angle makes sure no moisture can pool up at all of the connection points of the amplifier. So a very unique design. And again, the little details, that rubber tape that goes along the end to make sure, these are metal, so edges may be sharp. We don't want you to cut yourself or you rip a bag or clothing just by sitting in the back seat. So that rubber tape, again, to make sure anyone back there is protected. There's no loss of foot space. And again, you can put them under both seats. So if you have a larger audio system with multiple amplifiers, again, here's a great way to get that power, but without needing to drill holes, keep everything safe and protected in the back, and have a nice sleek look at the same time. On the JKs, they work a little different. They mount to the bottom of the seat rails instead of to the floor. But again, it all uses factory mounting hardware and locations that are already there, so no holes need to be drilled in. And again, you can fit all of those amplifiers I discussed on those JK amp racks also. So if you're an installer, DIYer, this is great. But it's also great for the retailers, just like the stealth boxes. Now you're not losing time in the bay fabricating an amp rack. You have a very efficient option that's purpose built for not just the amplifiers, but for the vehicle as well. And that helps free up the install bay as well to get more jobs in and just do it the right way. And it's repeatable, which I'm always a big fan of. We also have some nice under hood fuse holder brackets as well to make sure that we have done a good job of managing our wire management and have everything professionally done. So these fuse holder brackets, again, we have one for the JL and for the Gladiator. It'll hold 2 of our A&L fuse holders. Of course, you can drill and modify them for other fuse holders as well. But just a very clean way to safely manage your fuse holder and power wires under the hood. Again, uses all factory hardware and mounting locations, so you're not drilling any holes into the firewall or anywhere under the hood to securely mount those. And again, here you can see the JK one. I love this one. You can tell it's a JK in an older Jeep because it looks a little dirty under the hood. That's awesome. That means you know it's getting used the right way and it's not just a pavement pounder. But again, these are low-key options. Great for DIYers, great for the 12-volt retailers who just want a quick, easy process to safely and securely mount the fuse holders and get the power wire cleaned up in a way that's going to look good and do the job properly. So some really cool specific solutions for those. And while we've talked about the stealth boxes, another category where we can grow is thinking outside of the vehicle. And what really stood out to me were these numbers right here. When you talk about general activities, 47 to 60% of these people polled do something outdoors with their Jeep. And when I think about outdoor recreation, camping, fishing, to me, that's when I like to listen to music. And, when you start thinking about a Jeep, the top's off, we've got the roll cage, we've got bars. It's an excellent solution for ETX V3 or VEX pods to be used for outdoor playback. Of course, VEX pods, which are the little 6.5-inch pods, and the larger ETX V3 options are available on both the M3 and M6 family of marine speakers. Of course, with the M6, you get that beautiful transflective lighting, so you got that nice glow, but it really can enhance the overall listening performance. Whether you're using them for outside systems, I've even seen ones where they're turned the other way and play in to add more output to the system. Because let's be real, Jeeps, they're not the nicest overall vehicles when it comes to putting speakers and music in. We're in heavily compromised locations, 3.5 on the dash. You got a larger woofer and a kind of a weird kind of down firing location on the bottom. You got the sound bar. So they're not the easiest vehicles to put larger speakers in, deep speakers in. So I've seen quite a few shops use the roll bar with VEX pods or ETX V3 pods to play into the vehicle to get even more output. But of course, if we want to listen to it outside, this is a great way, just like we would do on towers on a boat when we're being towed behind it or swimming behind it or just hanging out on an inner tube. This is great for camping or you're chilling by the river or off the trail. Again, very key, out of space. We're not losing any real estate. Maybe a little bit in this one. This is a Jeep from our reps in Texas, team sales. They went all out. They have 2 completely different systems in this Jeep. They have their inside system, and then on the tailgate there, they actually have a Media Master source unit that powers a different amplifier that runs the 2 pairs of ETX V3 using our 8.8-inch M6 speakers on some custom mounts they made to mount that to the roll cage. So there's a lot of options when we talk about what we can do. We've come up with a pretty good solution we found that works well in our Jeep Wranglers. And it's really a system that we wanted to design that made sense for the everyday type customer. And that starts off with us using a pair of C2 350X coaxials in the dash. That's going to bring a huge upgrade to the overall audio performance in general, because we go away from that little 3.5-inch midler, I guess you can call it. It's a mid-range, but it's supposed to play the high frequencies as well. Now we have a true coaxial in there. So we have a mid-range driver to handle the mid-range, and now we've got that tweeter to handle the high frequencies. And of course, with C2, we use a nice silk dome tweeter, So it has a nice smooth response, really nice sounding speaker for a little 3.5 inch that'll bolt nicely into that factory location. Mark on Car Audio Fab, when he did his Jeep with the C7s, he even mentions if you don't want to do a lot of modification, these drop in perfectly. What we've done on our Jeeps after the C2 is we've actually kept the factory speakers in the bottom of the dash and in the sound bar. There's not a lot of depth there, so we're kind of limited on what we can put in. And what we found is when you have a proper amplifier, so I mean good power with DSP control, you can make those factory speakers sound really nice. And that's what we've done. We put a VX 700/5 in our Jeeps. We use that to power the C2s in the dash, the factory speakers in the bottom of the dash, and then run the soundbar speakers off of the factory source unit. And then we'll use the subwoofer channel to power one Stealthbox. And with the proper tuning of the vehicle, they sound great. Of course, if you want even more performance, you can always swap out those speakers, but you might run into some depth limitations. So for me, a good amplifier with DSP will make even inexpensive factory speakers sound really, really nice. And being we have a lot of compromises in the vehicle already with all the loud noise, it might not be worth it to the customer. So this is a great way to start. But you can grow on it as well. Of course, you can upgrade those speakers if you have a speaker that fits. What I would recommend is after we add the Stealthbox here is moving to 2 Stealthboxes and moving to 2 amplifiers. Being we've got the 2 under seat amp racks for the different Jeeps, I'd recommend either a 404 or a 606. With a 600/6, we can power the soundbar and both pairs of dash speakers to get some more output, and then have a dedicated amplifier as well for our subwoofers. And that'll allow us to power 2 Stealthboxes and really have a nice, well-rounded system that's going to perform really under any listening environment or situation. And it's scalable depending on the budget. And the nice thing is if you do these with VX amplifiers or VXI family, it should be a repeatable process. So once you do the first one and tune it, it's very easy to flash the amps to get that repeatable performance every single time, which if you're marketing to a specific market, you want that consistent result. You want, if someone hears the JL audio system your shop put in a Jeep, or even if you did it yourself, you want the repeatable results when your friend goes and gets the same thing or gets something similar to it. So that's the beauty of working with DSP and VXI and why we recommend them in categories where you're going to see a lot of growth potential and repeatable system designs. So that's kind of what I have on what JL Audio brings to the lineup for the Wrangler family of products. Is there anything in the chat that the guys wanted to talk about?
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's go ahead and get us back here. Can you hear us, Rob?
I hear you.
All right, there you go. Thanks for another very, very in-depth presentation. I took a lot of notes, and I think anybody who's going to watch that back has a full understanding of the depth and the options that JL brings to the table when it comes to the Jeep customer. So thank you for that. I'd like to start off with a couple of questions going back in the beginning of the presentation.
Yes.
You had mentioned somewhere in there, these are custom orders. So from a dealer perspective, or maybe Dave, you can help answer this. Are these strictly built to order, or is there inventory on these enclosures in the Stealthbox range for Jeeps?
Well, I'll speak on behalf of Canada. There's certain models that are more popular models, and we do our very best to keep on-hand inventory for those particular enclosures. But I think stateside, what their logic is with popular models, they have them sitting on the shelf. With certain vehicles, that may be, 10, 15 years old, those are built to order. So the turnaround time for those enclosures tend to be a little bit longer.
Okay, very cool. But
yeah,
sorry, go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, no, we know what the top sellers are. So Wrangler, F-150, Silverados. We do keep some inventory on those. They're big. Real estate's a premium in a warehouse. Mm-hmm. Our team, they in a matter of an hour, they can wrap it, load it, have it packed and ready to go. Some of them are assembled to order. Again, the top SKUs, those we try to keep on hand and in inventory, but it doesn't change really how we get them out. So it doesn't change the shipping or anything like that. But like Dave said, sometimes it depends on the color. If it is an older, not common model, we will have to sometimes make the enclosure first and then it goes over. But even with that, we can usually get it out within 3 days. So it's
fair enough. So the
pretty,
best thing to do
cool
really,
system.
yeah. But I mean, if you're in the States, give JL or your rep a call. But if you're in Canada, give Jemson a call and they'll be able to let you know, whether A, they might have it already in stock, or B, look at the turnaround time on a custom order. And there are a lot of applications for Stealthbox. So check out the website, JL Audio, go to Stealthbox. Lots of different options. And again, if you're in Canada, go ahead and visit gemsen.com. Another question for you. Installing these stealth boxes, let's stay specific to the Jeep models that we talked about today. How does the mounting work? Because I mean, they're like vertical on the sides. How does that work? How does that stay put?
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, as I was mentioning earlier, one of the key parts of the R&D process is designing the mounting solution. So are there holes that we can, integrate a mounting hole into the enclosure and mount through that? If not, they design all of the brackets. So they'll go and they'll cut metal, they'll bend it, and they'll design the actual mounting system that is eventually shipped with the Stealth Box. So they all come with vehicle-specific brackets, mounts, hardware, all designed by our R&D team, in most cases to utilize factory mounting locations. And we provide very detailed step-by-step instructions for all aspects. So, I mean, these ones are a little more simpler being they're there. But, some vehicles, you got to take out the entire panel to hide it inside of a quarter panel in an SUV so, we'll tell you how to take out this panel, how to remove the seat, then to, put these brackets and bolts. So we guide you through the process. It's very detail oriented, lots of pictures for every step to make sure they're easy to install. But yeah, the mounting solution is a very important part of it that R&D spends a lot of time and a lot of research to determine what safe, secure mounting locations that we can use, but also make sure it doesn't cause rattles, vibrations, or any unwanted noises as well.
Absolutely. Because the last one we want is, at this level of product, like, here's the box, now figure out how to put it in. No, what you're saying is the engineering, even to the mounting, either it's been thought out and you'll know how to do it, or the hardware that's required for that specific application will come inclusive of the box. Perfect.
Yep, absolutely.
We didn't get a shot of the connection plate of how this connects to or how you attach wire to it, but I would imagine is it a push type of system or do you screw in? Can you describe that to us, please?
Yeah, the Stealth Boxes typically use a screw down terminal to attach your speaker wires. Of course, you didn't see it because it's stealth. We always make sure
I knew there was a trick to it.
Always make sure we place them where they're not going to be visible if possible. Obviously, you can't do that on all vehicles, but on the JL and JK Stealth Boxes, they're all on the back side of the enclosure and out of the way, so you're not going to see them, and easy to access though prior to install, so you can get it connected before you install it into the vehicle itself.
Perfect. And my last question, and Dave, if you have one, by all means, my last question was looking at the VEX pods. You really have two types of situations there. You even mentioned whether your staff has two systems in the same vehicle, right? Because the in and out. But that is like game time mode, right? That's like, I see a lot of Jeepers doing that on the beach, at the parks, and when they're camping. So I totally get it. My question is this. Have you seen, or does the bracket that comes with the VEX pods allow for you to turn them 180 degrees such that you could actually use them for both modes without having too much disassembly or whatnot?
So VEX pods, we don't have a swivel adapter for them. Like all of our pods, the ETX V3 and VEX pods, they don't come with the mounting brackets. We sell them separately because we sell diameter specific ones for round roll bars or roll cages. So, the VEX pods have completely different mounts that we use than the ETX V3s, even though they're all diameter specific for the bar that they're mounting on. We do also have some flush mount or some surface mount options as well, but they're not swivel. They're a direct, bolt in. So you will have to have, plan ahead of time. I have seen systems where they have, 4 tower speakers, whether they're VEX pods or ETX V3, and you have 2 firing out, and then the middle 2 firing in, so you kind of get, you know, the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we don't have a 360-degree swivel. Even our ETX V3s, where we do have a swivel pod, it does have a limited amount of swivel because you got wires to factor in. You
Well,
can't
yeah,
have
that's
a
the other thing I
wire
was wondering
getting
about.
tight
Okay.
and all of that. So
you know what that means? You guys sell your customer Vexes for the inside and ETs for the back, and then you're good.
that's right.
And then you're all set. Dave, did you have any questions for Rob?
No, I don't have any questions. I think, you know, we spent a lot of time on the Stealthbox category, which is something that we don't really have a lot of opportunities to talk about a lot on CMA. So I'm glad we had a chance to go into depth with that. It's really an impressive part of manufacturing that JL Audio utilizes. And, you know, they didn't cheap out on it. You know, there are cheaper ways of building vehicle-specific enclosures. You know, plastic is one way of doing things, but you know, JL Audio has even experimented with that, and you know, the most rigid, the most accurate, you know, the most reliable way of building an enclosure is with fiberglass. Plus, you know, you get to maximize the amount of airspace possible using fiberglass because you can, you know, fiberglass is extremely rigid with a thin amount of material. Whereas, you know, wood, 3/4 inch wood, you know, you're losing airspace with that sort of stuff. The thing that I really love about Stealthbox at the end of the day, as Rob was saying, is it's a custom enclosure that JL Audio has built for you. So you're not building, you know, an enclosure in the back of your install bay, taping up the carpet, taking a mold, trying a woofer, and then, you know, you don't have the luxury of listening to it and then saying, you know what, if this thing had maybe a 10 instead of a 12, which coupled better with the vehicle, you know, it might sound better. So let's throw out this box that we just built at the shop and all these materials and time. That's not going to happen, you know. But JL Audio has done all of that for you, matched it with the perfect woofer, and we didn't emphasize that, you know, enough. That is designed specifically and includes a woofer, you know, that matches the acoustics of the vehicle and the enclosure, and it's going to sound the best way possible. So it's a huge category. That's doing really, really well, and dealers should certainly take advantage of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just, you know, finding space. Like Dave said, it's optimizing the audio performance. So before we even start scanning, 3D modeling, we'll just put a wood enclosure in an area where we want to put a stealth box and listen to it. How does it load when the sub's here? How is it when it's under the seat? And that'll kind of determine the area that we then. And then there's listening. And, you know, we typically Manville, our senior VP of marketing, him and his critical ear will get in and say, you know what, we need an extra 10% or take away this. So stealth boxes aren't necessarily always to the woofer's recommended airspace recommendations. They may stray to, you know, with more or little or less airspace. It's all about how it performs overall in the vehicle. So you truly have a system that's optimized for the vehicle in terms of performance, but then the you know, not losing space at the same time. So you really get the best of both worlds with Stealthbox products.
Very, very cool. On that note, I'm looking at the time and it's already time to go. But you know what, Rob? Again, brilliant. Thank you for bringing all this information, especially about Jeep. I know we learned a lot, and Stealthbox, like you said, Dave, we haven't had a big chance to really dive in deep, and I'm happy that we did that today. So on that note, thank you, Rob. We'll see you on the next one, and thank you for coming in today.
Yep. Thanks for having me back.
Take care. Dave, you know, JL always does things in the JL way, if you know what I mean, right? They have their own philosophy, their own way of rolling things out, their own way of doing things. So now that we've sat through this entire presentation specific to the Jeep category, how do you feel that JL is unique when it comes to these type of solutions within the category?
Well, I think their approach has always been do it the best way possible. Not the cheapest, not the way that they can make it the fastest or anything like that. It is how can we develop a product that's going to maximize, you know, the performance of our products, make them shine, and essentially make customers the happiest possible. And you know, I think part of it is the entire organization. It's a privately held company. You know, we're not reporting to shareholders or anything like that, where, you know, those guys can be bean counters and they can say, wow, you know, you guys spent this much money on building the Stealthbox and you only make this much, you know, like, why aren't you making it cheaper and faster? You know, but it's passion at the end of the day that fuels everything that JL Audio does. So while it may not be the cheapest or the quickest way of doing things, it is the best way. And that's always been the philosophy, and it's what's made JL Audio excel for the number of years they've been around.
All right. Well, on that, let's segue to. I'd like to hear a little bit of the feedback you've received. I mean, you've been a JL distributor for many, many years. You've obviously sold your fair share of these kind of application-specific solutions via Stealthbox. So what kind of feedback have customers given you over the years?
In regards to Stealthbox,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, well, perfect example. There was a car show up in Toronto here this weekend, and speaking about Gladiators, we worked with a partner that built a really customized, cool Gladiator, and he had put in a Gladiator Stealth Box and the XI amplifier and changed the C2s in the front. I was supposed to go down there and tune it, but they hooked it up, and before I even had a chance, and he said, "Dave, this thing sounds incredible. Sounds really good, and we haven't even done a tune on it yet." I have yet to hear anybody complain about the performance of the Stealthbox. If you're looking to rattle windows and break SPL records, Stealthbox isn't that product.
No, and you probably wouldn't care about the space savings, right? That's not what your priority is. But
Absolutely. Yeah. But if you're a more mature person, such as myself or yourself, and you still want that bass, but you got to carry a stroller now, or
coolers,
or
groceries,
whatever it is.
Yep.
Stealthbox is a great solution, for that type of customer, and they always sound good. You're not going to be disappointed with the Stealthbox.
I don't think anybody goes into it thinking it's going to sound good with the JL brand on it. I think it's a question of, is it going to pound or is it going to be okay? And I think what you're saying is it's going to pound within reason, right? Because at the end of the day, it's not like we're taking up your entire trunk. So, within the physical limitations of what the space that you're taking up or sacrificing for that.
They're gonna sound great, and you'll be happy. Like I said, if you want to break SPL records, then let's get some W7s and some big enclosures in the back there, and we can achieve that.
I'm going to circle back something Rob said in our preamble. I asked him about power. He's saying, like, for example, the one for, I believe, is the Gladiator has the dual 10s under the seat, and it's rated a certain power. He goes, "Ben, trust me, they're rated for a certain power. They will perform much better if you put more power to them." So he was saying, obviously depending on your budget, but a monoblock amplifier, don't be scared to power the guys that are in there. They're meant to play with lots of power. And that's something that Rabbit said.
I think a lot of people sometimes make mistakes and look at the performance of a system based on how much power it can take. So they gauge, all right, I'm gonna need 2,000 watts of power if I want to be happy with the type of bass. And that's not necessarily true, especially with a company like JL Audio, where they're rating their products real world. It's not mystery phantom power or whatever. So 600 watts, although it may not seem like a lot to a lot of people, 600 watts of good clean power is plenty. It sounds fantastic. So yeah, you could put a little bit more jam in there if you want, but if you're looking at an abusive customer or something like that, maybe be a little bit more careful. But I always advise our dealers, go to the JL Audio website, look up the application. You can download the brochure, and inside the brochure, which Rob was talking about, it's got detailed information as to how easy it is to, or how difficult it is to install that Stealthbox. In fact, there's a little ratings. I believe they use Makita drills or whatever. So on a scale of 1 to 5,
the difficulty rating. Yeah,
exactly. How difficult it is. Some of them, are very simple. Some of them can be a little bit tricky, but that'll give you a good gauge as to what kind of work you're into. Plus, it also gives recommendations of what amplifiers would go with this and what speakers could go in that vehicle as well. So a lot of work is done for you.
Excellent. On that note, I want to remind our listeners, if you're in Canada, you're interested in Stealthbox or any of these Jeep solutions or anything JL Audio for that matter, give our good friends at Gemsen a call or visit them on their website. Gemsen.com is where you want to be. Always looking for new customers. And if you want more information and you're curious, I'm sure Dave's got a brochure or two that he can email out.
Absolutely. Right. Put a link on the Jeep one in our chat right now and email us. We can send it directly to you.
Awesome, man. Dave, another good one. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate the time.
I'll see you on the next one.
Take care.
Well, there you have it, folks. That was JL Audio. Our trainer, Rob Haynes, coming in talking to you all about the goodies that JL's got for the Jeep consumer, which, according to statistics, is a hot customer. It's just the numbers, folks. That's the math. I want to remind you to continue tuning in to CMA Networks. We are now underway with our Jeeps sessions starting today, of course, and we're going right through until May 10th. Some great brands presenting within the Jeep session. So if you're into Jeeps, want to get into Jeeps, or you got Jeep customers knocking your door, you definitely want to pay attention these next few days. Also, make sure to check out our brand new redesigned website, cmanetworks.com, where literally hundreds of training videos that you can go through and learn and educate your team. You can search by category, you can search by brand, and you can even search by trainer. Check out my man, Rob Haynes. He's got his own profile on there, every video that we've ever done together. Thanks for tuning in to this CMA Connected presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.
Let's talk about stop it. Today where I'm going to topics.
Roll it down.
I am.
You don't need a car to listen to SiriusXM. You can listen anywhere. You know that, right?
What? Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio.
Kevin, you could use your phone.
What? What?
Alexa, play Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio on SiriusXM.
What?
This is how I know you're getting old. I guess that was it.
What?